Welcome back to the Stick 'em Up podcast. Brundi, we're getting a little bit close to the preseason. It's slowly creeping up, and uh I feel like at this point of this off season, we usually don't have a lot of news. And we don't have a ton, but like we've seen a couple things happen over the past few weeks. Like I feel like there's a little bit more
For August,
action.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's been a lot actually compared to what we were expecting to be getting.
Yeah, we've got a couple quick things to cover here. Um, One of the main ones being that Rutger McGroarty has been traded from Winnipeg to the Pittsburgh Penguins 1-for-1 for Braden Yeager. Uh, both 18 or 14th overall picks, I believe.
Yeah, 1 year apart or two, 1 year apart.
Both recent 14th overall picks. Uh, I think they both look like they're going to be good. McGroarty asked for a trade out of Winnipeg. Uh, Allegedly, he would not give a reason to Winnipeg. Like in like face-to-face meetings, he just kept saying that it was just no good. It was a no good fit. He wouldn't give any reason beyond that.
Yeah, there was lots of rumors floating around, and I think the biggest part of it is that I just don't think he wanted to play in Winnipeg. I think is kind of what it really came down to, which is something we see happen quite often. Um,
Yeah,
and it sucks because I already did both Winnipeg and Pittsburgh throughout this, so this is a win-win for both teams, though, right?
yeah,
First of all, McGordy, he signed his ELC like right after the trade was made, which is what he wanted. He wanted to play in the NHL, and obviously it just wasn't going to work with Winnipeg. And so, Pittsburgh gets a guy who's hungry and ready to make the jump. I think his offensive potential has more upside there than Jaeger does. So I think he'll get a chance with Pittsburgh and be able to just jump right in and, you know, start playing and trying to help them while they're trying to continue winning, but it's not going to happen. Meanwhile, for Winnipeg, I mean, they were in a corner. They had no leverage in making a deal, and they still get a very, very good two-way guy in Jaeger who's going to be a top six, or like a first or second line center for them for the foreseeable
yeah,
future. And he's from Saskatchewan, so
yeah.
Winnipeg's probably somewhere where he's actually happy to play, and he'll be there long term. So you move out a guy that wants nothing to do with you, that never wants to play for you, and you get a guy who's probably pumped and hoping to spend his entire career there, right? So it's a deal that works out really well for both sides, actually, in my opinion.
Yeah, and they already got quite a few good scoring guys up in Winnipeg, and I think bringing Jaeger in and him being a really solid two-way option could be just what they need to kind of stabilize that top two lines in the future. Maybe if they still have a lot of center depth, if Cole Perfetti takes the next step and they still got guys there, then maybe the third line. But I do think he would outperform the third line if he had to
Well,
be
and
there
and I
because
and
of
I think
roster fit.
Perfetti can easily play on the wing as well. So I think they're fine on that
No,
account.
there you
I
go.
also don't expect Jaeger to even play in the NHL next year. I think he'll take another
I
year
don't
of
think so.
development, just continue to grow. Probably, I think he's still eligible to go play in the World Juniors again. Can go play for Canada and kind of be one of the leaders and main guys for that team, and just keep developing and building his confidence up. So when he does make the jump and go and play with Winnipeg, it'll be so much easier for him, and by then they'll probably have a spot kind of carved out for him for where he fits best starting out with them.
Yeah. Um. Other than that, we have uh, just a couple things. We had the Matty Beniers extension. Matty Beniers, was it a 7-year deal?
Yeah, just a 7 by just a little bit over 7, I think.
Yeah, yeah, 7 by 7.14 AAV extension. Um, I love this for Seattle. they are taking a little bit
Hmm.
of a risk. He took a bit of a step back last year, but I definitely think he's one of those guys that is going to break out sooner rather than later, and he's going to be a
Yeah.
star in the league. I don't know if
I
he's
mean,
going to
he
be
won a
going for Art
Calder.
Ross's, but he's gonna be a great player. And 7 years
Here's
at less than 7.25 is
it's a
robbery.
phenomenal deal. Like, people got to realize that, you know, yeah, Beniers had a bit of a down year last year, but a lot of guys on Seattle did. The team as a whole did. They went from being in the second round of the playoffs to they're picking 6 overall. Was it 6 overall? No, 8th overall. Still, they're a bottom 10 team. And like, Beniers won a Calder. He was rookie of the year, just only 2 seasons ago. So like, this is a guy that we already know at least what he can do. I expect him to still get better. Again, a good two-way guy. Like, you can't just look solely at the offense. You got to look at the good two-way game he brings. And for like a deal like that, I think it's going to look very nicely potentially by next year before it even kicks in.
Yeah, like honestly, if he's half as mature as he looks in his face, they could make him the captain before the season starts.
Yeah, well,
Like,
and that's what we talked about with Seattle as well. We kind of talked through that idea around, like, if that would be the direction they go in, or how they're gonna decide who's gonna be their next captain, right? So
yeah, and they've
it makes
already
them a more likely candidate now, being locked in for the next 8 years in total now here.
yeah, because it's an extension on his ELC. So yeah, they got him for 8, and
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, he looks like he's going to be great as long as he's. I really haven't heard anything about what kind of guy he is in the locker room, but uh, I I imagine he is probably going to be their captain. I don't know if soon, but I think he is going to be the next captain at this point because they already had their first captain, Giordano, as soon as they did the expansion draft, and they shipped him out pretty quickly. So I can't
yeah,
imagine they are jumping at the idea to give it to somebody else for a few years so that they can move it again. I think they're
yeah,
going to want to put it on somebody that can hold it for a long time. And, Jared McCann's only 27. Vince Dunn's only 27. You could give it to those guys for sure. But,
hmm
you know, uh, your first ever draft pick goes out, wins the Calder. It seems like a really solid pick.
I completely agree. Right there with you.
But is that all the news before we jump into this?
I believe so.
Oh, and the Hughes brothers, Jack Hughes, Quinn Hughes, and Luke Hughes are the cover athletes on the new EA Sports NHL 25. Good for them.
Free
It's a
ride
pretty,
for Luke Hughes.
it's
Like,
a pretty lame picture, but I like the idea of all three of them being on the cover.
yeah, it's a cool concept for sure.
The last 3 or 4 years now, I'm pretty sure it's just been all pictures of the guy standing there or sitting in the locker room. Like, what happened to like the action
Pretty
shots of
much.
like a guy
See,
like
like,
ripping a
those ones
one
are so
timer or
good.
something? Like, it
Yeah,
just looks way better, and you get the snow coming up, and it looks all artsy. It's
yeah,
better than them all looking very mildly amused in the locker room.
yeah. I'm right there with you. The old covers are so much better, and it wasn't even close. Like, you're in those prime, like, NHL 10 to potentially even 9, like all the way through to 15. Like,
Yeah,
those were like the sick ones.
good stuff.
What a time we were in back then. We had it so good.
What a time to be alive.
But yeah, I think that was the only other
Yeah.
bit of news there.
Do you have a preference on going first or second?
I do. I'll start. We'll
Wow,
start with the Dallas
you're crazy.
Stars today. Fuck off. Um, yeah. So the Dallas Stars. Um, there's a lot to talk about them. One of the more interesting off seasons, given the way last season went for them. Finishing the regular season with a record of 52 wins, 21 losses, and 9 overtime shootout losses. 113 points. Their over under at the start of the season was 104.5 points. So
That's an
they
easy
exceeded what the
over.
expectations were. So easy for
Yeah,
for
who
that
took?
for them.
Yeah,
Like
who would have taken the under on that? Well, that's coming from a guy who takes the under on the Bruins making the playoffs every year. So maybe I'm not the best guy to
exactly.
ask, but
Yeah. No, you're definitely not. Finishing first in the Central Division, and even though they finished first in their own division, they did not have an easy road in the playoffs. First round going up against the Vegas Golden Knights, the defending Stanley Cup champions, going down 2-0 to start that, and then ending up winning in Game 7. And all right, so you got through Vegas, and sure enough, next round you're going up against the Colorado Avalanche. So two very tough, tough opponents to start the playoffs off for Dallas. Obviously, Dallas winning in the second round in that wonderful Game 6 with a lot of controversial calls, but Dallas ultimately coming out on top there.
I'm
And
so glad they
then,
won that game. That was
um,
frustrating to watch.
man, I
Dude,
couldn't. I did not want to see what would the hockey world would be like if Colorado ended up winning that game.
yeah. Did Duchesne get the game winner in overtime,
Yeah,
or did he get an assist on it?
no, yeah, he got
Yeah, that
the
was
game
good.
winner. And then obviously third round of playoffs, Western Conference Finals, losing to Edmonton in 6 games. Regular season stats for the team: 298 goals for. That was good for third in the league, and goals against 234. That was good for eighth. So they were pretty good in the offensive zone as well as the defensive zone. Um, we kind of
Three
know
is
the
pretty
story with
crazy for
Dallas.
goals for. Like, there's a
Yeah.
lot of teams with a ton of offensive firepower in the league right now. Being able to be number 3 for goals for while still being top 10 defensively is really impressive.
Oh yeah. Um, so we kind of know the story with Dallas. It's kind of been the same thing for a bit now. They're constantly, one of the better teams in the regular season, are always, one of the favorites when it comes to the playoffs. And again, they just haven't been able to get it done. They did have that 1 year losing in the Stanley Cup final. They've had a couple losses in the Western Conference Finals. Like when you think of Dallas, they're a team it's such a good mixture of good veterans, but you've also got a lot of really good up and coming young talent, and it
Yeah.
all blends so well together for them. Looking at some notable departures from the team, obviously the biggest one is Joe Pavelski,
Yeah.
who decided to hang him up after a terrific career. So that right there alone, you if you want to talk about how uh, bad his performance was in the playoffs, that's fair. But regardless, it's a big loss for Dallas, both on the ice and off the ice, as he was a terrific leader and mentor. Even I didn't know this until the playoffs, but I guess Wyatt Johnston was actually living with Pavelski throughout this past season. So that just kind of shows the type of guy he was, and
Yeah.
not to
Do you know
mention
where he was playing on the team, like lineup wise?
Pavelski. I think he was kind of all over the. I think he was mostly first and second line in the regular season, but then he's kind of up and down between all three lines in the playoffs.
Was he a winger?
I think it was mostly played wing. Yeah.
Okay. I'm looking at their lineups and I'm wondering who would have replaced him there.
I
But
haven't looked at the lineups yet, but
but
when we get there,
but
I'll
yeah,
probably be able to figure that out.
yeah, we'll get to it.
Also, like worth noting, 39 years old. He played all 82 games last year, so he was able to show up every single night for his team. Other departures, you know, Ryan Suter bought out. We kind of knew that was coming. I don't think that really hurts Dallas by losing him. And then
No.
Radek Faxa, he was traded to St. Louis, I believe it was. And um, what's the other guy's name? Ty Dellandrea, traded to San Jose. And then the biggest one, Chris Tanev, obviously is now with Toronto.
That'll be a hit. That'll
So,
be a hit to their decor for sure. They're
yeah.
Yeah, their decor is the only thing that I can really look at and even think of a weakness, but like it's not even bad. It's just not as strong as it was last year, really.
Hmm. Yeah, well, yeah, like, and then so that's who they lost. Obviously, there's areas that need to be filled. Um, the first move they made was re-signing Matt Duchene to a 1-year deal, 3 million AAV. This works. Duchene loves being there. He can produce there. He's a leader, a play driver, and something that he was. You know, this was, I think, the best Matt Duchene we've seen since he was in Colorado. I know he had some good stretches
Yeah,
with Nashville, but like this was like the first time I was watching Duchene, I was like, you know, this is who he was. This is what he should be bringing every night, and we got that on full display this past season.
yeah.
Sam Steele being re-signed to a 1-year deal. Matt Dumba signing a 2-year deal, 3.75 AV. That's kind of their cheap Chris Tanev replacement. It's obviously a
That's
downgrade, but
that's kind of a crazy deal. Like there's no way that they got him because other teams were offering 3.5. Like they could have got him cheaper, man. Like
probably.
he was I'm one of the few Tampa fans who kind of liked what they saw from him from his time after post trade deadline in Tampa, but like you ask online, every Tampa fan agrees. Like, would you bring him back for 1 mil? They were all saying no. Like, no, like he was not that great. He's fine
Well,
in the
I
offensive
think
zone.
I think Matt Dumba obviously had a bit of a down year. Like, I think if it's a similar thing to Matt Duchene, I think if Matt Dumba can join the Stars here and kind of go back to what he was when he was playing with Minnesota, I think
Yeah,
he could fit in very well for Dallas and kind of be.
absolutely.
Obviously, it's not going to be as good as Chris Tanev, but there's areas that Matt Dumba can help out better that maybe Tanev didn't.
Yeah,
Couple other signings: re-signing Nils Lundqvist to a 1-year deal, signing defenseman Brendan Smith to a 1-year deal. That would probably be their kind of seventh defenseman, if I had to guess. As well as Ilya Labushkin signing a 2-year deal at 3.25 AAV. So
I like that.
they've made moves to kind of replace some of these holes. Oh, and they also signed Casey DeSmith from Vancouver to a 3-year deal at 1 mil AAV, which is actually kind of a pretty sick deal for a backup,
That's
all things
freaking.
considered.
That's a freaking nice deal for a backup. Like
That is right.
for a guy who has in the past been a starter, like 1 mil. That's almost nothing on your cap for some
Yeah.
goalie insurance.
And then kind of moving over to some of the logistics and what the team is working with going into this season. They're currently sitting at $4.6 million in cap space. Um, Dallas owns the majority of their picks this next year. They don't have their second and fourth, but they have a fourth and a fifth from some other teams. Everybody is signed except for defenseman Thomas Harley, who had a nice breakout kind of season this last year. So, Dallas is kind of, I mean, I think he probably gets more than 4.6
When you
unless you
say he's
do
not signed, he's like currently got
he's
0
an
years, like
RFA.
he's an RFA.
Yeah. Yeah. He's currently an RFA.
Mm. Yeah, they'll have to get that done because he's going to
So
be on
I
their
don't know if
top
you
top
maybe
pair,
do
right?
a 2-year bridge deal at like 3.5 or something or 4. And it's like at the end of this bridge deal, like that's when you're going to get, you know, fucking paid type of thing.
Yeah,
Uh, so really, that's the only thing Dallas has to figure out. They still have time for it. I don't think any team would, but like maybe some teams are going to start throwing out offer sheets maybe now after St. Louis making that big splash and backing it up and just sticking it to Edmonton afterwards and whatnot. Like
yeah. And Thomas Harley
I
looked
don't think
really good.
Thomas Harley would get offer sheeted, but
I mean, I
teams
guess
can't be
like
too safe, can't be feeling too safe though.
I was
That
gonna.
currently have
I'm
RFAs
kind of
sitting
thinking,
out there.
why not? Like Thomas Harley looks like a good player. Like I what do you think would a fair long-term deal look like for him if somebody were to offer sheet him?
A long-term deal. If you're gonna
Seven by
be given,
seven?
yeah, but you also got to think about it, right? The teams that could use him right now don't have the cap space, and all the teams that would have that like 7 mil to sign him, you'd have to be giving up a first. And if you're again, when remember talking about teams like San Jose, Chicago, Columbus, and whatnot, like Anaheim, like it's those teams probably aren't sitting there like, yeah, we want to give up an unprotected first and potentially end up, having that be a top 5 pick again or something, right?
There's a couple teams that still have some cap space. I
But like
wish
7 on the table right now that they could put towards them. I don't have the team's
I was
actual
gonna
cap
say,
pulled up here. Like, I
unfortunately,
don't know if
none
you
of my
do, but
tabs are loading.
oh,
So
oh,
I
well, you're
can't.
just left in the dark then.
Yeah, actually, I'm glad the voice call is still going in, but
Well, we will move on from that then, at least. But that's the
yeah,
only area of work that Dallas needs to get sorted out. When looking at younger players in the minors, they really don't have anyone that I think is ready to jump up to the NHL and make a big impact, at least in terms of forward wise. Again, I'm not counting Stankoven as like a guy down there. Like he's a for sure player on the team now. Like he is a Dallas star. He's not,
yeah,
an
absolutely.
AHL guy or whatnot. Like he is a full time NHLer now. They do have Leon Bichelle, who potentially they got him and Christian Kyrou on the back end, and I think both of those guys are definitely probably not going to be playing in the NHL next year, but at the very least, they're going to be one of the last guys cut from training camp. The Dallas Stars are going to make sure they get as much time as possible to watch these guys. And, if a couple guys get traded or injured or something, there's a chance that one or potentially both of them could be called up if need be due to injuries or something. But with that, it is the favorite time of looking at the projected lines for the Dallas Stars. So
They got some nice lines here.
I
Like,
already see exactly where Pavelski slotted in, and it is on that first line right wing spot.
okay,
So the first line, again, this is all projected by Daily Faceoff. Is this going to be their actual lines? I don't fucking know, but this is what we're going with because it's all we got.
maybe.
So the first line, Rupe Hintz down the middle with Jason Robertson and Tyler Seguin on the wings. So obviously Pavelski was
It's
in that spot there. Tyler Seguin is
yeah.
projected to be in there now.
To
I
be
like
fair,
Seguin, but
if
he
Sagan
definitely
plays like
is.
the playoffs, like in these last playoffs, he was one of their best players.
Yeah,
He
he was
was
snake
really
bitten for a
solid for them.
while. Like he could not buy a goal, but then once he started, like once one went in, he started to find his confidence and his groove. And he was, again, I said it multiple times throughout the playoffs. He was probably in like every Dallas game. He was one of the 2 most noticeable players every time he was on the ice.
Yeah, if he can continue that into this next year and have a bit of a career resurgence, like he never dropped off massive, but he tapered off a bit and he never reached that next level people thought he would.
Yeah,
Almost in a similar way to Taylor Hall, except of course Taylor Hall did break through and then drop off,
yeah.
winning his Hart Trophy. But uh, yeah, Robertson Hins is super solid for that first line. So if Sagan can keep up and be the guy that he can be, but we don't know if he is anymore, that
Mhm.
could be a really good first line. And that means if you don't have to bring somebody else up into that spot as well, that just means you're that much better on every other line.
I completely agree. Yeah, there's really not like it. I think it could work out very well. I'm very curious to see if Sagan, you know, is the guy that they go with. Because I think there's other guys that might go there, but you never quite know. This second line I really like that they have though. We saw lots in the playoffs last year. It worked well. Just run it back because again, if it ain't broke, why would you
Yeah.
fix it or make any adjustments with it? And that is Wyatt Johnston uh, playing center with Jamie Benn and Logan Stankoven on the wings. that's a great line. Like that gives you a
Yeah.
little bit of everything. Having those guys together, you mix the young with guys with the captain, the veteran on the team. Like that's exactly what you want. And again, it's a line that works. So
Yeah.
it makes no sense to split it up.
All three guys can put the puck in the net. You got Jamie Benn out there to kind of protect Stankoven a little bit because he's a smaller guy. Like it's and they've even got Stankoven and Johnston to kind of help cover for Ben where he kind of lacks in speed a little bit. So like I really think that it would be like it'll be just as good as it was in these past playoffs. Probably better because Johnston and Stankoven now have another year under their belt, another off season to
Well,
get better.
and it's also like when you're looking at Dallas, like their first line of the future is Jason Robertson, Wyatt Johnston, and Logan Stankoven. I think that's if things go the way that they should, that's your first line of the future. And this is a perfect way again. Like right now, Robertson and Hintz are cooking together. You don't split them up, and it's the perfect way to help continue the growth of Johnston Stankov and have them with a guy like Jamie Benn, who again can protect them, is a leader, can help them, kind of show them what they're missing or doing wrong out there, and so they can correct that. And again, like they produce right now, it works. Just keep doing it until eventually it doesn't, or Wyatt Johnston, Logan Stankoven are ready to, I think Wyatt Johnston could already get away being on that first line, but like
Absolutely.
just continue to let him to develop and just torch it up on the second line and let your top guys that have been your top guys continue to get it done on the top line.
I'll be honest, I don't see Stankoven getting to that top line. Not while Rupe Hintz is still on the team. I think you'll be hard pressed to tear Hintz off that first line. I think Wyatt Johnston could slot into that first line right wing, but those three guys are pretty freaking solid. And I think Stankoven's going to be great, but Rupe Hintz, I really did not think he was this type of player. I thought he was a top 6 forward. I thought he was good. Dude's broken out as pretty elite over the past year or two.
Oh, yeah, Rupe Hintz is a fantastic player, but I think if Stankoven, continues to go at the direction he's going, I think it's going to get to a point where it's pretty and again, it's going to be a time when Rupe Hintz is, he's going to be hitting, 31, 32-ish, kind of in there, right? When Wyatt Johnson or Stankoven's like really hitting his prime and is, playing his best hockey of his career. So then it'll be kind of easier to, have Rupe Hintz kind of, go down and be a elite second line center.
Yeah,
and
that's fair. He's
let
also
the younger guys start to kind of take. Well, he's only 27, but
I thought Rupe Hintz was like 24, 23 maybe. But no,
I got you.
He's 27, turning 28 in 2 months. So
yeah,
he's not old by any means, especially as a hockey player. But he's older than I thought.
Yeah. Looking at the third line, this is the Triple M line. We got Maverick Bourque in the middle, centering Mason Marchment and Matt Duchene on the wings. This could actually be a really fun third line.
That's a
not gonna lie.
Third line.
Like that's actually a fun third line. I don't have any complaints with that.
I don't know much
what
about
Maverick Bourque can do. Yeah, at the NHL level at least.
Yeah, but Mason Marchment, Matt Duchene, from what they did last year, like that's criminal having guys like that both on your third line. Like if Bourque can just keep up with them, like that's going to be a nasty third line, and that's going to be big for them in the playoffs.
Yeah, right. Like this is the perfect way to get Maverick into your lineup, and again, because like you're losing Pavelski out of your top 6, you want to try and at least stay relative to where the team was with him, and it's a big loss. But the way Maverick Bourque has been, grown the last couple years in his projections and whatnot, he could be a very, very good player there. And putting him with guys like Marchment and Duchene, I think, is a good way to integrate him into the league and give him some good line mates that I think can help him out in both ends of the ice. And then the third line, or the fourth line, sorry. Sam Steele in the middle, centering Evgeny Dadonov and Colin Blackwell.
It's a fine fourth
Yeah,
line.
it's a fourth line, right? Like it doesn't. When you look at the
Dadonov
top
on the fourth is
nine,
pretty good.
Dadonov on the fourth is pretty good. I will give that. And when you're looking at their top nine, like your fourth line doesn't need to be out of this world good, right? Like they just need to be serviceable enough to not get scored
Yeah,
on
7
every time they're out there.
responsible defensive minutes a night, and then
Yeah,
maybe a couple of them are on the penalty kill or penalty
yeah,
kill second
couple
line, and
penalty kill minutes, and
that's all you need.
yeah. So moving on to the defense, this has projected that Thomas Harley will be signed by then and be playing. First defensive pairing, Thomas Harley on the left with Miro Heiskanen on the right. I mean, I've always scream it from the rooftops any chance I get. I love having, your left-handed guy on the left side and right-handed on the right. But Heiskanen's at an elite level enough where he can play on the right side despite being a lefty, and we've already seen that these two can work together, being on that top line. So I can't complain about this top pair at all for them.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's a lot of it with the handedness for a defenseman is how you can pick the puck up off the boards and stuff, but I feel like once you have the puck, it's almost better to have your stick on the inside. Like once you're set up, then you can do more things. You can take one-timers from the other defenseman. You can I feel like your stick is in the middle, so you can have more options for passing. So I do wonder if it's like, hey, Heiskanen, can you deal with this? Or is it like, he's like, yeah, I actually kind of like this. Like, I have absolutely no idea which way he prefers it, but
I get what you're saying, though.
I do wonder if there's some defensemen that prefer to play on the weird side compared to the vast majority preferring, right-handed on the right, left on the left.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm not sure. I really haven't played a whole lot of defense ever, at least as a defenseman. So I'm not sure. Like whenever I did, I was always just like, I'm going on the right side because it's just I think it's easier and safer. But I think maybe you're kind of onto it where, if you're a lefty on the right side, it's easier to make those passes and whatnot out of the zone. But I think you're also more susceptible to turnovers. And if there's pressure on you, like it puts you in a little bit of a tougher spot. Yeah, it's more in the middle. And whereas at least if you're a righty on the right side or lefty on the left, it's like you can kind of just go up along the boards or something, or you can cut backwards and keep, your body and like your body in between the other guy and the puck. It's easier to do it that way as opposed to the other side, because then it's like, if you're a righty or a lefty on the right side and you try to cut towards the boards, you're bringing the puck more towards them. And they poke it, they're going in. You cut backwards, then you're more so going towards your goal. Like it's So I see what you're saying. I guess it depends on if you're looking for the
It seems like the most of the
easier
benefits would be
breakouts
in the offensive zone.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah,
but it might not be as good defensively, which a very large part of being a defenseman is being responsible defensively. So
being good in your own end. Yeah. Speaking of a guy who's not good in his own end, Ilya Lyubushkin on the right side on the second pair with Esa Lindell on the left side.
Lindell's
I'm not crazy about it. Lindell's pretty solid.
He's pretty solid. I think he might be able to cover up for Lyubushkin enough because Lyubushkin's pretty good offensively, but leaves a lot to be desired defensively. So if those two can have some good chemistry, I can see that being a pretty good second pairing. But right now, it really feels just like an experiment so far, seeing it listed like this. Like I have no idea if it'll be. It could be great. It could be atrocious. It really could be either.
Yeah, and then the third pair, Brendan Smith on the left side with Matt Dumba on the right. Like you can even swap Matt Dumba up to the second. You can keep Lyubushkin there. Like you've got options at least. So like if one's not working, you can try another one and see if it works and kind of
changeable pretty easily.
Yeah, so like the top pair is elite for their defensemen, but the rest I'm really kind of unsure of, especially because like 3 of your 6 projected defensemen weren't on your team last year, right? You're bringing in 3 new guys, so you don't know where they're going to work well, who they're going to work well with, how they're going to, kind of adjust and adapt to Dallas's system. Is it going to help them actually, be better, or are they going to struggle with it? Like I really don't know what to expect.
Yeah,
With their defensemen there, but I'm curious to see how it works.
And this is a team that, like you said, was 8th last year in goals against. So like they were pretty proficient at keeping the puck out. So
Yeah,
they must want to at least stay in that top 10. They might think
yeah.
they're going to take a step back, but if they could even stay in that like top 12 range, I think that would be really solid. But that's a lot of turnover on the blue line, and especially a guy like Chris Tanev, who is so good at shutting the other team down. Like it's tough to replace that, especially when you're doing it with Labushkin and Dumba, who are notoriously a bit offense first.
Yeah, and that's exactly it, right? And then wrapping it up with the team, we already know the story with the goaltenders. Jake Ottinger in between the pipes as the starter, Casey DeSmith as the backup. That's a good starter and backup there. I'm very high on Ottinger. I think last year's kind of a bit of a down year more for him. I expect him to hopefully have it. I mean, obviously, a lot depending on how this new decor they put together works, but I'm hopeful for a good season from Ottinger. I think Otter can bounce back and be that guy again. And then DeSmith, I mean, solid backup wherever he goes. Like he's not going to actively hurt Dallas in the games that they put him in.
No, and he's going to be one of the better backups in the league for sure.
I think so, right?
One of the better backups that's not in a tandem.
Mm-hmm. I guess, yeah, that's not in a tandem.
Yeah. This is a strong Dallas team.
It's a very strong Dallas team. Obviously it's tough losing guys like Pavelski and Chris Tanev, but if you're hoping that some of these new guys can help fill that role, or even if you've got some young guys that are ready to step up and take charge and fill it, I mean, you've got options, right? And that's the best part about Dallas is not only how strong of a team they've been for the last, few seasons, but their drafting has always been solid. They're constantly getting good players every year in the draft. Like they're building up a great prospect pool despite being a yearly playoff team. And not only that, it's like a favorite to win the cup every year. So if you're able to do that, like you're setting yourself up for a really good future.
Is all we got left our final two bits that we do for each team?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's all we got left here.
All right. Well, you're doing the team, but I'll ask you anyway. Do you think the Dallas Stars make the playoffs?
Yeah. 100%. Like 100% they do. It would be so weird if this team missed out on the playoffs.
Yeah, like it was weird last year when the Devils took such a step back and missed the playoffs, but it would be even weirder if this Dallas team missed the playoffs. Like there's nothing about them in the last 4 or 5 years has said they should be missing playoffs.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Even if the new additions and whatnot don't pan out the greatest, and guys like Wyatt Johnston and Stankoven and Bork, like they don't, they stay where they were last year. They're not, coming out this year as better players and producing more. This team still is a playoff team. They may not be top of their division, but they're a playoff team regardless, in my opinion.
Yeah. And the other question, we've had a couple teams recently that it's kind of hard to gauge even a real number one answer, but this one has quite a few legitimate answers, you could say. Who do you see on this team being most likely to win individual awards, individual hardware?
Yeah, this is a team where there's actually multiple different options you could go with. Like
I've got mine.
If you don't, fun one, a fun. Yeah, I'll let you go first.
Okay, there's a couple different good answers, but to me, the most obvious or the most likely has to be Miro Heiskanen winning the Norris Trophy. He
See, I
is.
thought about that one. I thought that'd be a fun one to do.
You thought that'd be a fun one, like you don't think it's actually that likely,
Well, I don't. I
or
think it's likely. I like Heiskanen, but I don't think it's the most. I think if you're looking at this Dallas team, I think most likely is Stankoven to win the Calder Rookie of the Year.
interesting,
I think
interesting.
that's. I
I
think
wasn't
that's
really thinking
more
about the Calder.
likely. Yeah, I think that one's more likely. Like again, is Stankoven going to be the best, rookie in this rookie class? No, but he's one of them. He's top 5. And when you're looking at, the other guys that are up there,
That's
Stankoven's
interesting.
probably got by far the best talent around him to play
I was gonna
with.
say I really didn't think he was a great pick for the Calder, but I mean, Celebrini's not playing with Wyatt Johnston and Jamie Benn. You know,
He
who
sure
the
as
hell
hell
else
doesn't
is
have
playing?
Heiskanen and Harley back there on
Yeah,
the blue line.
yeah, he'd probably get a little bit of power play time at least on the second unit. So
Like Matvey
yeah, that's actually a
Michkov, whoever he
really good
plays
shout.
in Philly, he's going to have to be driving the play. He's going to
Yeah,
have to be the play driver and whatnot. And Cutter Gauthier, I mean, he's going to have a good year, but again, he's kind of in that area situation like Will Smith is in, where you're going to have you're going to be a great player and you're going to have good players with you, but it's going to be a lot of young players, and you're not going to have exactly that kind of veteran presence probably on your line. So I think it's just like not only is Stankoven, he's again, I think he's still a top 5 rookie in this rookie class. I don't think he's like top 3, but looking at the talent he's got around him and that he's already kind of proven it a bit in the NHL, whereas like Cutter Gauthier played 1 game last year. All the other guys haven't even played an NHL game yet.
yeah, that's fair. That's a
So
really good pick. Yep,
Stank's got that experience a little bit.
I went
And
with Heiskanen for Norris. You went with Stankoven for the Calder. I definitely thought one of us would end up saying Jake Ottinger for the Vesna.
no, I think Ottinger's gonna have a bounce back year. I love Otter, but with the way some of the other goalies have been trending and playing, like
Yeah,
it's tough to see him, getting the Vezina over probably Hellebuck, Shesterkin, Vasilevsky. Like
it might be the hardest trophy year to year to guess who's going to win it.
yeah, I also
Like
think it's the hardest trophy. Well, you could argue actually it's the hardest trophy to win back to back now. Like his
I would definitely
goaltending,
say so.
it's so
It's
strange. Like, well, I mean, like we're not going to be losers and be like, oh, the Calder, like because no, like an award that you're actually
who wins
eligible
that back to
for
back.
every year. Like it's more like we've seen guys like McDavid and whatnot. Like it's possible. Well, I don't actually know if McDavid's won back to back Hearts, but like there's guys in this league that could and win back to back Art Rosses and whatnot. But like
Yeah.
back to back Vezinas, this
The only
hard.
one that the only one that would be harder, I would say, would be the Conn Smythe, but
Oh
that
yeah.
that feels different. That's a playoff award.
But hey, you know what? Fuck, Crosby did it.
Yeah.
So it's actually like
Connor McDavid has not won back-to-back Hart trophies.
yeah, he has. I started to think about it. I was like, you know what? Actually, I
23,
don't think he did.
21, 17, but he didn't have any back-to-back. I there's I really hope we don't enter an era where there's a ton of voter fatigue on him.
Yeah.
Like
I
I
don't
get it.
think there will be.
I get it. He's not the flashy pick because he's won it 3 times already, we know, but like if he is the best player in a year, don't pick a guy with 15 less points because we want something new, you know?
Well, and it's also if there's voter fatigue, the problem is, right, is if there's voter fatigue, then individual awards and accolades, it comes to a point where it's like, how much should that weigh into a conversation of a player getting into the Hall of Fame? Right? Like when we're still talking about guys going into the Hall of Fame, what are we doing? Like even when we are ranking our, top players at each position, what was a big thing that mattered? And it was individual awards.
Yeah.
And
And
so if there's voter
I think
fatigue
they
and
need
you're
to
not
move away
gonna
from it.
You know, it won't exactly right. And if voter fatigue is becoming a thing, that's fine, sure, whatever. But then you can't really count, put that much into awards when, taking into consideration of, a guy going in the Hall of Fame because like, well,
Yeah.
if
And
there's voter fatigue, it's unfair to the player then at that point.
generally, it's not too much of an issue in that conversation because you only get voter fatigue with guys who have won it multiple times. And by that point, if you're winning multiple individual awards, you're probably in the hall. So it
Yeah.
doesn't often come up, but I definitely think it should be looked at a lot more of like, you know, what was this guy's highest finish in awards? Or like, this guy never won a Selkie, but he came in second or third a total of 8 times or something. Then it's like, well, obviously that matters. You can't just
Yeah.
say he never won a Selkie and that's that. Like, so
Hmm.
it's something where I feel like looking at top 5 finishes maybe comes into play a bit more so at least.
Yeah.
And obviously voter fatigue, that would still affect those scores, but
Hmm.
it feels a little bit more fair,
A
especially
little
with
bit,
just
yeah.
there's 32 freaking teams in the league, probably more coming in the future, who knows how far away, but like there's there's a lot of freaking there's a lot of freaking players. Like even Connor McDavid, he's a freaking mutant. He can't even lock down back-to-back hearts because there's just so many guys. Somebody's always having a career year. Like,
Yeah.
so it's guys not winning individual awards. It's pretty tough to just point at that when, hey, look, this guy's got like friggin' 170 playoff points or something. Like,
Hmm.
where's that
Yeah.
award?
Yeah, exactly, right. But that does wrap up everything we have for the Dallas Stars here in their offseason review. Good team. They've been a good team. Lots of good young talent coming up. If you're a Dallas fan, you should be very fortunate to be watching this team right now and be a fan of them because they are going to be a good team, not only now but still for a long time. So
They built themselves very well.
very,
They're
very good.
they're great now, and they're gonna be good for a long ass time. They
You
got
can very well
Roope Hintz for
argue,
another 8 years. Wyatt Johnson, Stankoven, like so many of these young
yeah,
guys, Robertson,
you could
like
argue right
Heiskanen.
now they're actually I don't think you could argue. Like I think they are the best run organization in the NHL right now.
I don't know if they're the best run. They definitely have an
Well,
argument
in
for it
in terms
because,
of in terms of from like a winning standpoint and building a team up, like you look at all the other teams that are you know playoff locks and whatnot. None of them have as near good of a prospect pool as Dallas has, and none of them are. You look at all the other teams; their top talent is you know getting up there into their 30s and whatnot. Like, and Dallas is a young team, and they've still got young players coming up. Like from like a winning perspective and building a team up and whatnot. Like,
I would say there's a few other teams that have built as well. The thing is, Dallas is a couple years ahead, so the other teams aren't quite at the same spot at this point. But
mhm.
mainly the Devils, you'd have to throw in there. They've built themselves to be something fierce going
See,
forward.
so you
That
could say
Jack
the
Hughes
Devils,
contract is
but
so good. They've got so many good young guys that are only getting better.
you could say the Devils, but again, like we haven't seen like shit from the Devils yet. Until the Devils could start being a playoff team and being a powerhouse in the league for a couple years,
But
then
that's
probably
because they're
yeah.
all so young.
Mhm. No, but that's what I'm
If we're
saying, right? Like
talking
that's why
about
right now.
building a good young team, yes, but like I would say they're up there. Dallas has built a better current contender with older guys and being in win now mode, but the Devils aren't in win now mode. They're in
They
build
should
mode.
be. They should be in a win now at this point.
They're looking to win, but you know, if they don't win the cup, I don't think they're super pissed. I think they go, okay, well, we'll take our number one defenseman who's like 21 years old and our number two defenseman who's like 20 years old, and we'll get better.
Nah, no, they got to be in win now mode because eventually you're gonna have to start paying these guys, and then you're screwed, right? Like this is why it's like win now for Dallas because you're going to reach a spot where eventually you're like, we don't know with Harley, but you're going to have to pay Johnston a boatload. If Stankoven keeps going the way he's going, you're going to have to pay him a boatload. Like, and then you're gonna lose some guys in that process. So I think
Yeah,
I actually like, again, those are two of my like favorites to win the cup from each uh,
conference.
conference. Yeah, like I'm
Yeah,
high
fair.
on both New Jersey and I was high on New Jersey last year, but
Yeah, a
didn't
lot of
go up.
people were.
But
A lot of people were.
yeah, yeah. But
I
anyways,
yeah, I think a lot of people have started looking at Dallas similarly to the Carolina Hurricanes. They keep getting in the playoffs. They go a bit deep, but they never get it done. Something
yeah,
tells me this Dallas team is going to win a cup,
yeah.
and this current Hurricanes team probably doesn't.
I don't think.
If
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
being
kind of
honest,
right there with you.
I couldn't tell you what it is. There's something intangible about watching both teams where it just doesn't feel like the Hurricanes are going to reach that next level they need to, and it
Hmm.
it feels like Dallas could.
Hey, I'm right there with you. I'm feeling that way as well with it.
But now, moving into the second team, I bring to you our recap for the offseason and preview for the St. Louis Blues. They're honestly looking at their forward core, I was surprised at how good it looks. Like, it doesn't look top tier or anything, but like this is a nice team. Like they are kind of set up, and honestly, I wish it was this year instead of last year that I predicted they'd be sneaking into the playoffs. They got a lot of guys. They got a lot of their important pieces locked up long term as well, which is huge. Jordan
Yeah.
Kyrou and Robert Thomas both have matching deals, both for 7 more years at 8.125. I mean, that's pretty tidy work. Like they're both great. They're both young. They're gonna get a little bit better. They're 26 and 25, so they're starting to reach that age where they kind of are what they are. But they've both been trending upward. They've both been really solid, and they still got a lot of other great pieces as well. They extended Buchnevich recently, so he's in for 7 more years at 8 mil. Like they got some nice pieces here.
I kind of like, and again, I love shitting on the Blues just because it's fun and I just like to do it. But like all things considered, with them, actually, I really do respect what they've done. They kind of, I mean, they obviously won their Stanley Cup and whatnot in 2019 and whatnot, and but that was kind of looking like it was trending like, all right, now we're kind of getting to a point where it's like, okay, you're trading out Ryan O'Reilly, you lose Petrangelo to free agency, like it was starting to be like, is this the time now where St. Louis is going to have to kind of start going into a rebuild and whatnot?
Yeah,
But the fact that they've managed to, I mean, obviously haven't had much success since winning the cup. They've done a good job at building a team up again, and kind of continuing to stick with some of their core guys that they had, and they're trying to make it work. And I like a lot of the moves they made this offseason, though. I gotta say, like
yeah,
I respect what they're doing, and their uh, just their efforts to try and keep winning and get back to a playoff team. You do got to put some respect on that at least.
yeah. I really like what they've been doing, and especially the two offer sheets, of course, that just went through earlier this week. That being Dylan Holloway and Philip Broberg, both from Edmonton. They got Philip Broberg for 2 years at 4.58 mil, and they got Dylan Holloway for 2 years at 2.29 mil per season. Both are RFAs at the end of those deals, and to get them from Edmonton, it cost them a second and a third this year, and that's it. That's that's nice. If you were to trade for both those guys, you'd be paying more than that.
Yeah.
So I think they got away with those aren't horrible contracts either. Like
No,
like
like they're really
they're only
not.
2 years, but like they're you're not absolutely eating into your cap by any means with those. So I'm surprised they were able to get both of them, and it really just fills out the roster a bit more. Um, they are a couple picks down, largely in part to that. They're missing their next two second rounders. Their third this year, their fourth, and their seventh, but they have Pittsburgh's fifth. Um, so they're a couple picks down, but nothing too much. They got all their first.
Yeah, and if you got
They
your first round picks like that, that's all St.
That's the
Louis
big
needs
thing.
right now. Yeah, at least holding on to those firsts.
Let's take a look at the team stats from last year. So last year, the St. Louis Blues, they were the fifth team in the Central Division. Four teams in that division made the playoffs. They went 43, 33, and 6 over the season to finish the season with 92 points. They were not that far out of the playoffs. They didn't make it, but who is the farthest out team? The Vegas Golden Knights had 98 points. The St. Louis Blues were the next closest team with 92. That's
Like they're right in there.
Yeah, that's 6 points away. I believe they faced the Golden Knights once or twice in the last like 2 weeks. So
There was a time when
if they
St.
won,
Louis was fighting with them, like for that, like they were neck and neck with each other.
yeah, if they
So they
beat
could have
Vegas
easily
in
been
one
in
of
there.
those games, it's now the Golden Knights got in by 2 points. Like it's close.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they they have a lot of reasons to look like they could be better this year. So I wouldn't be shocked if they made the playoffs. I don't know if I'd put money on it, but I think they could definitely be in the mix at the very minimum.
Yeah. I have a tough time seeing them make the playoffs. Um, just because, I think Dallas is still a safe lock in the Central there. I think now
Yeah,
Nashville is for sure a safe lock there. I like Minnesota and Winnipeg more than St. Louis, but like again, like they were in a position where if they could easily squeeze into that last wild card spot. Like they almost did it this past year, and I don't at least as far as I know, I think the team's gotten better. I don't think this team has gotten worse from
I would
um,
agree.
where they were. I mean, I think the biggest thing is obviously they I believe it's like Torrey Krug is done for the whole year already, which that is a big loss for them. But I think in
Yeah.
terms of still what they brought in, like I think it's still a better team overall. So potentially, like there's potential that that is they do just barely squeeze into the playoffs.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, I really think that this might be the year where we see three teams in the Pacific get in the playoffs, five from the Central, three from the Metro, and five from the Atlantic. Because,
It's
like I
very
said,
possible.
St. Louis was knocking on the door to Vegas, and Vegas just lost Conn Smythe winner Jonathan Marchessault. They lost Chandler Stevenson, who put up really good numbers for them. Like they've brought in other guys as well, but they lost some pieces, and they were already, you know, they were the next team kicked out of the playoffs. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. But
It's very possible. Yeah, I'm I can definitely see it.
and I know you'd like to see it, being Vegas and
Um,
all.
oh yeah. If they're in and it means Vegas is out, oh yeah, I'm all for it. Then
Oh yeah,
I'll
and
I'll jump on that Blues bandwagon.
this team, and I know it was especially their identity 2 or 3 years ago. I think they had like 11, 20 goal scorers or something like that. Like it was insane. They still have quite a few though. They got one, two, three, four, five, six. They got 6 goal scorers from last year on their team. Not a lot of teams have that many, I don't think. Like that's a lot of depth in your goal scoring. Um, by far their biggest producer last year was Robert Thomas with 86 points. In second was Jordan Kyrou with 67, Pavel Buchnevich with 63, and then it drops down to Braden Shen with 46. So those top three guys, and I do believe that is their top line, or at least was last year. Uh, they carried the brunt of the scoring for sure, but they had some other guys who were chipping in pretty good, and yeah, they don't have, other than Robert Thomas with that 86, like the rest of their scoring is really spread out between a lot of guys. And I do,
they get it done by committee, this team.
yeah. And it's one of those things where like it feels like a good thing, but also like I don't know, like if one guy, like if your third line center stops producing well, is that going to take down all three guys on that line, and now your scoring's in the
Exactly.
shitter? Like, or is
Yeah.
it, another guy takes that spot and then it's fine? Like, it could be fine, or it might shut down the entire line, and now you don't have that
Yeah.
superstar carrying the team while your depth figures their shit out. So it'll
Hmm.
be interesting to see
Yeah.
how they
I
do
get
with
what I
that,
get what you're
because
saying though.
they've been very high on that depth wins championships for the last few years. Um,
And they got good depth. It's a big part of it is those those top guys that they're riding with now. Like this is kind of Robert Thomas, Jordan Kyrou, Pavel Buchnevich. Like this is their team, so they're gonna there's a lot riding on them to be producing a lot and kind of be the guys leading the
yeah,
charge for this team. Because again, like it's a lot of guys below them. It's still it's a decently young team as well, right? Like
yeah, it's
so
a
you kind
pretty
of need
young
your
team.
top guys to get it done when you're some of your younger guys are going through a slump or just aren't producing or whatnot. Like it happens. You're gonna need your top guys to be able to cover for that and keep this team going still.
Yeah, and all three of those guys you mentioned are all signed in for the next 7 years. So
Yeah,
uh,
they're locked in. Like that's their core going
that's the
forward now.
core. And there's one other guy that isn't. People wouldn't say he's in the core yet, but he's definitely making his way in, and we'll talk about him in just a second as we get to the projected lineups on daily faceoffs. That being their first line, which they have listed as Robert Thomas centering Jordan Kyrou and Jake Neighbors. And I think Jake Neighbors is going to be a massive part of this team moving forward. 21 years old, and in 77 games last year, he had 38 points, which is pretty nice for a 21-year-old. 27 of them were goals, though.
Okay,
This
here's the
guy's
thing though, right?
21 years old. He was tied for second on the team in goal scoring with Buchnevich.
Hmm. I just want to pull it up here just to make sure before I start spreading fake news. Yeah. So here's the thing though, right? When we're talking about St. Louis, they got to get Jake Neighbors signed.
They do.
You got to get him signed, like,
So
because I
he is
mean,
signed, like
well,
for
he's
next
signed
year.
right. Yeah,
He needs to be extended, is what you mean.
yeah, before next free agency. Like they need to have
Yeah,
him
yeah.
because if he goes, if he's an RFA and he's out there for an offer sheet, I think Edmonton's coming for him. I think
I
Edmonton's
don't.
gonna go for some revenge. I mean, Jake Neighbors, he's an Alberta boy
I don't think they can
already.
afford him.
He grew up playing in the dub for the Edmonton Oil Kings. I mean, the cap's gonna go up. I think if he's out there, I think Edmonton's gonna offer sheet him if it gets to that point.
That's fair. They did just hire like the king of all boomers as their general manager. So you know what? I could
And I
definitely
fully
see it,
expect
but
them by next offseason. Like I
they could
I think
extend him
they're
tomorrow.
yeah,
They
I
they
think they're
they're gonna want
probably
to
like
extend him.
Edmonton can I think can get the cap space to do it. It's not going to be easy, and especially with some of their uh, other guys that notably that they need to resign. But I think it's possible. So if
I
like I think St. Louis needs
I
to at
could
least
see
be
them.
monitoring that.
I could see them offering it, but I don't see any world where they don't match it unless Edmonton purposefully goes way too high, and then if they get stuck with the dude, now they're in a bad spot.
Yeah,
If it's a really high number, because Doug Armstrong is for my money like a top 5 GM in the league. I think Doug Armstrong has done a fantastic job
yeah, he's a
consistently,
dog. He's yeah.
and I think if it came down to it, and he was like, I am willing to accept whatever Edmonton offered. If he couldn't get something done sooner, he would fire Nick Leddy out of a cannon with a first rounder strapped to him, to whoever's willing to listen, and say, take this guy, I have some business to do. Like, if he needs to clear the cap space, I don't think he's above sending really any of their decor out.
No, but it's more so the fact of like you don't want to get stuck in a spot where it's like,
No, you
you
don't
know,
want to be put into that spot where you have to
Edmonton
pay
signs him
somebody
to
to take
like
a guy.
Edmonton signs him to like a 7-year deal, like 8 mil or something.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's like, instead of maybe getting,
A little bit of a discount.
neighbors on a cheaper deal, now you're stuck, you're having to give him that big contract type of thing, right? So
Yeah. And you know what? It is a good thing to point out that, yeah, he's an RFA next year, and
like
they
everything
just went
lines
out
up
and grabbed
exactly
these
the way that,
RFAs, so they're
yeah,
they're going to be on people's radar a little bit. So
it's set up the exact way that after Montreal offer sheeted Aho, like there's already people like at the time of that, they're like, there's potential next year that, you know, Carolina's going to come back with an offer sheet for revenge, and Kotkaniemi's going to be there, and then sure enough, it ended up happening. So it's
yeah,
probably unlikely. I expect St. Louis to already have neighbors signed by them, but I'm just throwing it out there. So when it happens, we'll come back to this. I'll come back to this. We'll come back to this.
we will come back to this.
All of us. But anyways, I like that first line though. Long way of saying I like the first line.
Yeah, it's a solid first line, and if Jake Neighbors can really take that next step, like I said, Robert Thomas last year put up 86 points. If you get Jake Neighbors taking that next step with him, Robert Thomas could hit 90, 95. He might sniff 100 points, especially if that brings up Kairu's numbers as well. You know, if those three can really gel together, I think they could do some serious damage. And of course, that, I assume Buchnevich played on that first line with them last year. And that would just mean that you're pushing him down to get some more depth as well, because their second line is Buchnevich in the center, and on the wing they got newly acquired Dylan Holloway and Brandon Saad.
Yeah,
that's not bad. And
yeah.
Holloway's another guy you're hoping he'll take a step, especially with the new team and everything. But I like this top six. I think he could do better than Saad on the right wing, but for now, it's not terrible.
For now, it works.
They're not expecting to win the cup this year.
No. Their goal is just to get back into the playoffs this year.
Yeah. And then they got, on that third line, they got Braden Shen, their captain, in the center. And then they got, on the sides, they got Alexander Texier and Alexei Toropchenko.
It's a serviceable third line.
Yeah, that's pretty solid. I don't
it's
know
not
much about Toropchenko's game.
Should scare the opponent or anything, but it can still be a solid, kind of. It's more of a third checking line. Like, it's not a third scoring line.
Third line.
Yeah. I think Shen definitely helps boost it up, but it's not a third line that's, you're at the end of the season, it's going to be like all of them are 35 point plus guys. I don't think. Like, I think it's going to be, hovering in that 25 to 30. Maybe not for Shen, because I think he'll get a decent bit of power play time, penalty kill time, and whatnot. But yeah, it gets the job done. For a team like St. Louis and what they're trying to do right now, it gets the job done.
Yeah. This Blues team, considering how physical the Blues have been historically, they had a lot of guys play 82 games for them last year. Robert Thomas, Jordan Kyrou, Braden Shen, Brandon Saad, Nick Leddy, Colton Parayko, Alexei Toropchenko, all played all 82 games. And then they still got Buchnevich, Hayes, Krug, Neighbors. They all played 77 or more. Like, that's a nice clean bill of health,
It's solid, yeah.
A lot of these teams have quite a few guys that, 60, 50 games. and you're wondering about their health going into next year. I don't think they have like really any guys other than Torrey Krug that they're worried about their health.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Then again, I guess it's easy to
Like
say,
it's good when you can stay when you've got a
not
team that
talking
can stay
about this
healthy
guy.
like this. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's good for them. That's what they need is they need those guys to be able to stay healthy. Like especially when you've got a young team like this, you want to be able to see that you can get a full 82 game season out of them.
And then on that fourth line, we got previously mentioned in Dallas, Radek Faksa in the center, flanked on either side by Matthew Joseph and Kasperi Kapanen. That's actually a really good fourth line.
That's a really good fourth line, actually. That's actually a better line than their third line. Like, I
Yeah,
almost kind of like that or that third line more if you moved Joseph and Kapanen up, maybe with Shen.
yeah,
Like Matthew Joseph, like he showed what he's capable of last year with Ottawa when everyone wanted to run him out of there, run him out of town. Like he could be a solid add.
yeah. And him and Kapanen are really fast as well. I'm not too sure about Faksa, but that is a speedy line as well.
I don't
Like
think
that's
Fax is that fast.
that's got to be
Like
annoying to
not
play
slow,
against.
but yeah. Yeah, I like that actually for like whether it's a third line, fourth line type thing like that's good depth that they have though.
Just
Again,
trying
for
to
what they're
find
trying to
it
do right
here
now.
because he's not listed in the lines. So he's not listed on the defense, but they did sign Pierre Oliver Joseph, Matthew Joseph's brother, to a 1-year deal as well. So
Yeah.
at the very least, in training camp, he'll get a chance to try and break into the lineup. And I just love the move by Armstrong bringing the brothers in and just let's let's see if we can catch some vibes, right? Like,
And you might as well,
what are they
right?
risking?
Like exactly.
But that first defensive pairing, they have Nick Leddy and Colton Parayko. That would be a Stanley Cup winning second pair,
Yeah.
but
First
it's
pair
not.
don't love it, but
That's not great as your first pair. They're obviously missing that number one D, uh, which is very unfortunate because I think Vince Dunn could have been perfect for this team before they
yeah.
lost him to
Well,
Seattle.
it would even be better if it was Torrey Krug and Colton Parayko, like that's so much better right there. Like it
That's
really
true.
hurts
That's
losing
true.
Torrey Krug for the whole year.
Yeah, that's a pretty big loss.
It's a massive blow to their defense.
Yeah, and it really shows on the depth on their decor as well because their second pairing is Justin Falk and Scott Perunovich.
Yeah.
I don't recognize the name Perunovich at all, to be
He,
honest.
he's a young guy. I think he's got more offensive upside than anything. Like when you're talking about him, that's kind of more so what I kind of have heard at least.
Okay.
So again, it's a young guy. Give him a chance, I guess. Did he play much last year? What were his stats here? I'll pull him up here.
Yeah, looks like he's currently signed to a 1-year deal worth 1.15 mil. So I can't imagine they were earth-shattering numbers, but if they've got him playing on the second line on daily faceoff here, so they
So
must have done something right.
in the 21-20, like he's 26 years old. In the 21-22 season, he got 19 games in the league. After being called up, had 6 assists, no goals. The year after 22-23 looks like he was injured for a good majority of it. He only played 22 games in the AHL, put up 20 points. And then last year at the St. Louis Blues, he played 54 games, 0 goals, again, 17 assists. So like 17 points in 54 games. He was a +1. Um,
That's not
really
bad.
fun fact. Holy fuck. I didn't know this. In the 2019-20 season, he actually won the Hobie Baker Award in the NCAA,
Oh wow,
playing
that
for University of Minnesota.
goddamn, you weren't
So
wrong.
as a
That is a fun
defenseman,
fact.
like won the Hobie Baker. So like there's potential with this guy. I mean, he is 26, but
I mean, Celebrity just won the Hobie Baker, right?
yeah,
Like that's the award that like Eichel won and all that. Like that's a
Kale McCarr won it.
like guys that are freaking good win that award. So yeah, maybe there's something
Yeah,
to this guy.
yeah. So I think the biggest thing is if can he stay healthy. It looks like he has had some trouble staying healthy for an entire season, which again isn't great if you've got a guy that can't stay healthy. But curious to see what he can do this year with the Blues, and you know, can
Yeah.
he finally actually maybe score a goal for once? Stop getting all these assists.
Well, it's almost one of those things where it's like it's almost, looking back at his stats, it's almost better knowing that he was injured in a way because like that means the injuries have held him back from being good, not that he just kind of lost step. So like if he
That is
can
true.
be
Yeah,
healthy, then there's potential that he could be a legitimately really good defenseman.
that is true. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Trying to really enunciate my thoughts on that so I don't sound like I'm wishing injury on some guy.
No, I get what you mean. I got you.
Yeah. Yeah, he's just injured. He's not Sean Day or anything who just kind of wasn't him.
Yeah, just wasn't that guy. He thought he was that guy.
Hey, you know what? That's the most important guy to think it.
Yeah,
On the third pair for the Blues, on defense, they got newly acquired Philip Broberg and newly acquired Ryan Suter. It could be fun. I
it's
don't love it. I don't
interesting.
hate it.
It's interesting.
It depends what version of both guys we get. Like this is you
Yeah,
it's pretty tough to tell what you're getting there. Broberg could be good offensively, Suter can be good defensively. They could both be bad in those in those spots if they, if Suter keeps on the decline, if Broberg doesn't take that step.
yeah. I really don't know what to think with that third pair. Like it could go so many different ways with that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Something tells me that Broberg might end up moving up in the lineup, but at the
I
same
kind of
time I
think
don't
so, right?
like
I think if you offer sheet
could
him
he
how much you're paying him, I think you got to give him a chance.
yeah. Is there would the, they wouldn't move Justin Falk down though, would they? Would you put him on the third pair?
I don't. I don't know. I mean, you could.
How much is he making?
Too
Justin
much.
Falk, 6.5 mil. That's a that's a good amount to be playing on the second pair, honestly. They got three guys making 6.5 on the deal
Yeah,
on the D.
they're. Yeah, I don't know how they would go about it. Yeah, because I think either way, like
They're all
you know,
old too. Wow.
or do you like just have Perunovic play on the third pair? You know, don't let him be overwhelmed. Maybe, hopefully, maybe help keep him a little more healthy. But then you kind of have him run in your power play. Uh, I don't know. There's multiple different ways you can go with it with these defensemen. And then I mentioned, like you said, they also signed Pierre Oliver Joseph. He could even maybe make the team. Like I thought he did pretty good with Pittsburgh last year. I wouldn't be
Yeah.
surprised if maybe he makes it. And Ryan Suter at this point now he's just you know seventh defenseman who comes in every now and then or comes in for injuries. Like
Yeah. There's
I
hell
really
they
don't know what they're gonna roll with.
yeah, they even signed Adam Juracek to his ELC already,
I don't
outside
expect him to
shot.
play though
I doubt it,
next year,
but he's
especially
one
not
of
after
the
that injury.
that is true. He had the injury, but he's one of the older guys from the draft, right? Like he was one of the oldest guys getting drafted. He's already 18 at this point.
I mean, in terms of the 18-year-olds, yeah.
Yeah,
But
compared to the other
again,
guys,
I
right?
think, yeah, I don't think you like. There's no point in rushing him in, and in like when you don't need to, and especially when like he did miss a lot of time last year due to that injury. So, to go from not playing for so long because of the injury to just be like, all right, now you're in the NHL. Like, I think he's more suited to just go down in the AHL, get a full year of development in the AHL, kind of work his way up to be one of, if not the guy for their defensemen down there. And then come next year, he'll have a full season of playing. That injury will be fully behind him, and then also, just getting that extra development being down in the AHL, I think, is better for him.
Yeah. And I don't expect this guy to make the team by any means, but I just really want to say his name, defenseman Leo Loof.
Leo Loof. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's actually
Leo,
pretty. That's
and
a
then his
pretty sick
last
name.
name's just Loof.
That's a pretty
Freaking
sick name. That's
Loof.
actually a pretty sweet name.
Dude, every time he scores from the blue line, too, the whole building. Loof.
Oh, fuck.
That'd be
We can't
pretty
go down
good.
this road again. We can't go down this road again.
It'd be pretty good.
Did you just come up
And
with that on your own? That was clever.
yeah. Hey, not
Just
every joke's
off the
got to be
top of your head.
original. Aren't you glad I didn't say Loof?
You're the worst.
In the net, they
You're the worst.
in the
You're the
net,
fucking worst.
their starting goaltender, Burundi's favorite goalie in the league, Jordan Binnington.
Dude, he's such a piss baby. Like he's. He actually had a good year last year though. He did have a bounce back year.
He had a really good year. I
It
saw his
started almost
stats
kind
the
of
other
look like
day,
he
and I
was.
was shocked.
It almost started to feel like he was trending into that like Matt Murray territory, not like, with the same injuries and whatnot, but like, just comes out of nowhere, steals the show there, wins a cup and whatnot. He's like the hero, and then it was like haven't seen him at that level since. But he had actually had a really solid year last season, and I
Yeah,
think that also gives St. Louis a bit more hope, going into the season now with him, knowing that you can get those numbers from him. You can get solid goaltending from him across the season again, hopefully.
yeah,
But like
yeah.
you know that it's possible again.
Yeah, those last 3 years, like he had 3 years ago, he had a 901. 2 years ago, he had an 894 in 61
Ooh,
games. That was pretty rough. But yeah, he put up a 913 in 57 games last year. Like
what was
that's
his goals against?
his goals against last year was 2.84.
2 point. So I mean, yeah, like it was a good bounce back year for him. And again, when St. Louis, there was a lot of uncertainty of, there was talks of him maybe getting traded to Edmonton and whatnot, and him being on the move. Like it helps St. Louis a bit, especially because like they're just trying to get back into the playoffs right now. They're trying to continue to build this team that they're building, and knowing that you don't have to worry as much about your goaltending as you thought you'd have to, definitely helps them to kind of focus on other areas of the team right now.
Yeah, Stuart Skinner better watch out. He's going to steal Team Canada's spot.
Yeah, possible.
They also have one of the better backups in the league as well in Joel Hofer.
Yeah.
Relatively young, but he's put up pretty solid numbers since coming into the league. So I don't think, especially after last year, I don't think he's taken the net over by any means. But, last year, what did I say Binnington had? A 913? Yeah, he had a 913. Hofer had a 914 in 30 games. So
Hofer is, I think, their future in net. I don't know when, but I think he, as long as things go the way they have been, he should be the guy that, is their goalie of the future.
Yeah, and he is an RFA next off season, so any day now, if they want to, they can extend him. Obviously, Binnington has 3 years left on his current deal at $6 million per, so they'd probably want a deal in place to move Binnington if they do extend Hofer, or they want to figure it out first. I imagine they'll extend Hofer for another 2 years or so, and then give him a big extension when Binnington's expiring.
Yeah,
but that's a bit in the future. We also got Jordan Binnington has that's a lot of conditions. He has a modified no trade clause that goes from an 18-team no trade to a 14-team no trade to a 10-team no trade over the next 3 years. So they got more trade partners every year that they wait.
Yeah.
But
okay.
That's the St. Louis Blues lineup. And obviously, like we said, Torrey Krug is not on the list because it looks like he's not going to play next year. Hopefully he comes back after that. We did learn relatively recently that sounds like Gabriel Landeskog is going to possibly be back this next season. It sounds like he's saying it's a when, not an if now. that he'll be back in the NHL, which is fantastic to hear after such a freak knee injury has taken him out for like 2 years now. I believe him winning the cup was the last time he played hockey. So
I think so, actually, yeah.
Yeah, hopefully both those guys get back sooner rather than later. But I guess all that's left to ask is, Brundy, do you think the St. Louis Blues make the playoffs next year?
No. Again, I think they're going to be competitive. I think they're going to be fighting for that, last wild card spot or one of the wild card spots. But I think they fall short again.
I'm in the same boat.
Kind of where I'm at.
I want to say that they can get in there, but I think Utah made a lot of improvements over what the Coyotes were. The Wild are better. Nashville's better. Like, all the teams in their division have really improved. So that's going to take away some of their points. I think they're going to be real close. I think again, they will be the closest team, the highest amount of points in the West without being in the playoffs. I think they'll be in the same spot next year. They'll be the first team missing out, but they won't make it.
Yeah, that's kind of right where I'm at. I think, like, I think they're gonna have a good season again. I think they're gonna be. There's a lot more excitement and buzz around the team going into next year, but I don't see them being a team to knock one of these other better teams out at this stage right now. I think they got at least a year or two more to wait before they get back in.
Yeah. And do you have a prediction for who is the most likely to win an individual award on the St. Louis Blues? It's a lot tougher than
It's
than
tough,
Dallas.
man. Yeah, like I'm looking through. I'm like,
I got my answer, but it's it's far from a slam dunk.
dude, there's literally like no clear. There's like nothing.
I want to say there's a clear one, but it's only clear because there's nothing else to guess.
Like, is it crazy
Well,
saying Robert
okay.
Thomas for Selke?
That was
Is
going
that
to be my
bold?
answer.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm copying you then because I'm like, fact that I don't know what else. No one's winning
Yeah.
the Norris.
Yeah.
Bennington ain't winning the Vezina. Nobody's winning the Calder.
Yeah.
Like,
Robert Thomas last year tied in Selke voting with Elias Pettersson.
okay.
That's a nice way of saying they were in 25th for the award.
Yeah.
With 6 voting points each. But the math checks out. They're right
And
below.
if there's
Wow,
already some
Garland got more
recognition,
votes.
if there's already some recognition around Robert Thomas, I only see it growing.
Yeah. He is very good, and I think his numbers will only go up, despite him having a career year last year.
Yeah.
You could make the argument for Binnington for Vezina after last year, I suppose. I don't think he'd be a favorite, but as far as most likely to win the award on the team, I think him or Robert Thomas are both at about, plus 7,000 some for their awards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'll go with, because again, there's really nothing clear or like a slam dunk one where it's just the obvious pick. So I'll go with that one with you. That's all I got. That makes sense.
Also,
but
while I've got it up here, Jason Dickinson on Chicago, 12th in Selke voting.
he actually had a really, like, quietly, surprisingly, really good year last year.
Yeah, he had a second place vote. He had 3 third place votes. Like,
and some people are really high on him.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
But that does wrap up everything we got for this episode, covering the Dallas Stars and the St. Louis Blues. As usual, one last thing before we get out of here. Once again, Braden, I will defer the first pick to you for next episode. But before you tell the team, give us the division.
You want me to edge you a little bit with where we're going, huh?
Yeah, because I've got the team I want picked, so I want to hear your division, and I'll tell you what division I'm going with.
God, I'm trying to remember what freaking teams we've done at this point. I genuinely thought it would be really easy for me to remember. Like, of course, I know what we've talked about. As we've gotten to more and more teams, I'm like,
well, we're at the halfway
crap.
mark now. We've covered 16 teams so far.
I've got
So
2 teams here. I
we've
want to
got
say we
half the
haven't
league
talked about.
left.
Oh crap! Have we talked about this one? Oh, I think we have. We might have talked about them both, dude. I suck. All right. Well, you know what? I'm just gonna go for it with confidence and tell me to shove it
What
if we've
division are
already
they in?
done them. The Atlantic.
Okay, because the team I want to do is in the Atlantic.
Oh boy.
So you might
I
do
think
it to me again.
I think
We'll see.
it's the same team.
So here's the
Unless I'm
thing, though,
thinking one we've
is
done.
I have the team picked I want to do, but I also have a backup in the same division in the Atlantic. If you pick the one I got, so I'm happy either way. I'm getting one of these 2 teams either way.
I mean, assuming
But
you're not
I know
picking,
who you're. I'm pretty sure I
assuming
know
you're
who you're
not
picking.
picking Tampa,
No, I left that one for you.
then I will take next episode. I will do the Montreal Canadiens.
Oh, you're going Montreal. That was my backup because I thought you were picking this other team. All right. So next episode, you will be covering the Montreal Canadiens. In the next episode, I will be doing the Detroit Red Wings.
Enough. 2 very interesting teams, and it's good to do them in the same division. I kind of like jumping around and doing ones in the same division because
Kind of compare
you
them a
get,
little bit,
yeah, you can
especially
talk
teams that are in
about a
similar
similar
spots.
situation. Yeah,
Yeah,
like they're
exactly.
both
Right.
fighting for those same wild card spots. We can kind of talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be a fun one. And as usual, sticking with 2 episodes a week. You guys will be getting that episode next week on Tuesday, covering the Detroit Red Wings and the Montreal Canadiens. But that does wrap up everything we got for this episode today. We do once again thank all of you guys who have been tuning in and listening through all of these off-season reviews. Again, if you want to talk any hockey with us, you can do so on any of our socials on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, SCU Hockey. We are on there. We are active. Again, all things hockey around here. So you want us to talk hockey with you? Come say hi, and we will most definitely be doing so. But Brayden, anything you want to throw in here before we jet out of here? Jet out of here like Rutger McGroarty did out of Winnipeg.
Oh, well, he couldn't jet for too long before he became a Penguin, but no, I'm starting to feel it. I'm starting to feel the hype for the season again. Like it is currently August 22nd as we're recording this. You know, we still got time, but I'm feeling it. It does not feel like we're fully in off season anymore. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
feel like we're in the dead of hockey season. It's starting to ramp up. People are talking about it. We're getting offer sheets. Like I'm getting excited.
Well, and here's the thing. Right? Oh, whoa. Hold on.
Did we
I just
get
want to
breaking
check
news?
something here. No, I just want to check something here.
I'm
Oh, never
googling
mind. Okay,
NHL
no.
news.
We messed that up. Funny enough, so at the time of recording, this is on August 22nd, which means in less than a month, we're getting preseason hockey again. The first preseason game kicks off on September 21st. And do you know who's playing in the first preseason game? Without looking it up? No cheating?
The 2 what teams?
Yeah, guess what 2 teams kick off the first preseason game?
Oh, maybe I might be thinking of the Winter Classic. Is it like Minnesota and Chicago or something?
No. The first preseason game, which kicks off again in less than a month, the Dallas Stars and the St. Louis Blues.
We did it. Look at that.
So look at that. We know our shit. We timed that perfectly. But that does wrap up everything we got for this episode. We do thank you guys for tuning in. We hope you guys enjoy your weekend. We'll see you guys next week.